Hi, I'm Dominic and I am Luke's driving instructor. Luke is the gentleman doing the driving in the bottom right corner of the screen, and this was his mock test. The mock test before his actual driving test. Unfortunately, at the end of this mock test, together we decided that it would be worthwhile postponing the test because of a couple of issues that happened on the driving test. And this is actually a very good idea because Luke wants to pass his driving test first time, and because of the huge backlog that we have in the United Kingdom of driving tests, it makes sense to only take it when you're absolutely certain and sure that you can pass. And you can't really be certain and sure that you're going to be able to pass your driving test until you can do a mock test and not get any serious faults. And unfortunately we did get a serious fault on the driving test, the mock test that we did. But that's not to say that Luke is a bad driver. He's an excellent driver and he's 99% of the way there. You can see how observant he is. He's looking all round, he's doing his very best to make sure that he's keeping the car safe. So he's nearly there. We're just trying to get it absolutely certain, and that's exactly the right thing to do. So I'd like to start by looking at the first fault which we took into account when deciding to postpone the driving test. And that fault was something basic, but it can crop up occasionally, and it was not selecting the correct gear for the speed. Sometimes we'd be entering a turn to the left, for example, and it would be in second gear when we needed first, or in third gear when we needed second. Or it could have been an example of going for second gear but ending up arriving in fourth gear, and that's often due to, and can be fixed if you do use the palming method, and just remembering to push to the left when you want first and second, and straight up and down for third and fourth, and pushing to the right when you want fifth gear. Now, just occasionally being in the wrong gear is just a driver fault, and it won't fail the driving test. However, if you repeatedly make the same fault, then that could fail the driving test, and of course you're only allowed 16 faults in total, those are driver faults in total, before you will fail your driving test. So you want to minimize down these sort of little basic errors. So we've fast forwarded a little bit to get to the next part of the test where something actually happens. Up to this point Luke's been driving really well, apart from the gear change issue mentioned earlier. So the examiner, me playing the examiner, would have asked Luke to pull in on the left hand side somewhere safe, convenient and legal, and unfortunately we'll just look at what happens on Luke's face. Oh, there we are. So basically we pulled in a little too close on the left hand side and the front wheel has hit the curb. Always try to allow plenty of room. About a drain's width is adequate. If you see that single yellow line on the road, if we could aim for the wheels to be lined up with that, it would be absolutely perfect, and then you didn't risk hitting the curb. And during the test the examiner will ask you to pull over a number of times on the left hand side, so this is an important skill to master, and definitely something we don't want to be scoring driver faults for, or even potentially dangerous driver faults for. Okay, moving further on in the test, I asked Luke to do a reverse park. I was saying Quoting directly from the ADI1, would you pull up on the left well before you get to the next parked car, please? This is the reverse parking exercise. Would you drive forwards and stop alongside the car ahead, then reverse in and park reasonably close to and parallel with the curb? Try to complete the exercise within about 2 car lengths. And I'd like to compliment Luke on a really good job. He did everything right. You can see that his checks when he starts reversing over his shoulders to make sure it's all safe, exactly right. He's doing everything as safely as he could. Look at there as he looks to see as the car swings out. The only problem was that we completed the maneuver with the back of the side of the car too far away from the curb, and it would have required a lot of fixing to get it right. So there was a fault there. Okay, so we arrive at the roundabout, and unfortunately the car stalls, and that in itself is not a problem because Luke deals with it okay, and we can move away, but it affects his judgment, and we move away when we should have waited for that car just there in the background. That wasn't really a safe gap, and we'd have been better off waiting until the roundabout was clear before we went. And there was a little bit of confusion on this roundabout. So the instruction was straight ahead, second exit, but I think Luke started to second guess himself. We approached correctly in the left-hand lane for going straight ahead on this 2-lane roundabout, but unfortunately because of second guessing himself, Luke indicated left before we'd passed the exit before the one we wanted. So in other words, he's indicating left here, which is too confusing for the other car approaching from the left hand side. They might have thought that he was about to turn left at that point. The signal needed to come later on once he'd passed that first exit. So some confusion there led to a signalling fault, but just remembering the 12 o'clock rule would have been fine, and I think we would have avoided that confusion. So just a little bit more practice and Luke won't be wasting his test fee because he will be successful with his driving test. We just need to get the experience so that the judgment can improve, but there's so much good in his driving. He's really doing well lots and lots of the time. It's very encouraging, and he's really improved after taking lessons. So just a few more lessons and then he'll be in a very good place for passing his driving test first time.